We'll go next to the Red River rivalry. The 6th-ranked Oklahoma Sooners traveling to Dallas to take on the Texas Longhorns, 3:30 Eastern Time on ABC. This is the 121st edition of one of my favorite rivalries in the sport, the Red River rivalry. 6th-ranked Sooners enter into the Cotton Bowl with an undefeated 5-0 record, an elite defense. That's kind of what you need to know about them. If you know nothing else about Oklahoma, know that their defense is truly elite, at worst, a top 3 unit in all of college football. The Texas Longhorns, many people thought they were the number 1 team in the country. I thought they were the number 1 team in the country. Preseason number 1, but they've stumbled now to a 3-2 record. They've now fallen all the way out of the AP poll after a very disappointing loss last week at the hands of the Florida Gators. Brent Venables for Oklahoma in head-to-head matchups against Steve Sarkisian. He's 2-1. We know Steve Sarkisian's been really good in his time at Texas, and he has a career head coaching record of 87-54. The quarterback matchup is a fascinating one. You have Michael Hawkins. More than likely, Michael Hawkins is probably what I should say, because there is a little bit of buzz about John Mateer desperately trying to play in this game. Who can blame him? He's a young man from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You are from that area. You now get a chance to potentially play in the Red River rivalry. I mean, what more could you want? So who can blame John Mateer? If he can play, that'd be miraculous. It'd be amazing. If he can't, and we're going to operate under the assumption that he can't right now, it will be Michael Hawkins Jr. thrust into the spotlight, the broken hand to Mateer, who underwent surgery. We'll keep an eye on whether or not Mateer can go. Like I said, I think it's an outside chance, but never say never for a guy that's that tough and that competitive. As far as Hawkins is concerned, he did start 4 games last year. He did start this game last year, so he does have some experience in this unique environment. In his lone start this year, that was against Kent State, they won 44-0. I thought he was pretty efficient for the most part. I thought he ran the ball pretty well, did have a score on the ground. He was 14-24 for 162, did have 3 touchdowns through the air, but if you watch the accuracy, it wasn't great. There were some inconsistencies, a little bit of a mixed bag, but the big thing is that he did not commit a turnover. That's huge. You'll understand why here in just a minute. On the other side, it's Arch Manning for the Texas Longhorns. He is a legitimate dual threat weapon, and through 5 games, everyone has been scrutinizing this young man's performance. Rightfully, he was by far the Heisman favorite coming into the season. Everyone expected him to be the best quarterback in the country. I thought he had a chance to really accelerate to the top of the sport. However, if you look at my preseason top 10 quarterbacks, I did not have him in the top 10. I think he was kind of had to prove it. And so far, he hasn't just yet. But I do think last week, even though he had a couple interceptions, was a significant step forward in the right direction. Against Florida, he was good. And I know people will tell you otherwise, but under the duress that he was under, it could have been bad, and it wasn't. He gave his team a chance, did have a couple misses, but that was by far his best game as a starting quarterback against quality competition. The 5 interceptions are a little bit of an issue. He's got to be smart with the football in this game, especially in the event in which Michael Hawkins is in there at quarterback for the Sooners, because it might be tough for the Sooners to manufacture a lot of points if they are a bit one-dimensional, because Michael Hawkins is a little bit erratic throwing the football. One other aspect of Arch Manning's game, the mobility. Right now, he is leading the Texas Longhorns with 160 yards on the ground, which is critical given the offensive line struggles up to this point. All that said, I do think things are looking up for Arch Manning as they head into this performance, but he's going to need some help for sure from his offensive line. Impactful injuries. We've already referenced John Mateer. For Oklahoma, we also have Keontez Lewis, who had a really scary injury last week against Kent State, kind of collided with that wall. It sounds like things are promising for the long term, but the status for Saturday is uncertain at this point. And then for Texas, a couple question marks at running back. Trey Wisner re-injured his hamstring against Florida. We'll see whether or not he can somehow find his way back onto the field. And then CJ Baxter suffered a hamstring leg injury in week 3. So the top 2 running backs being out has been forcing them to kind of lean towards Jarrett Gibson and Christian Clark there at the running back spot. And then, of course, using Arch Manning's legs as well. And then Malik Muhammad, maybe their best corner. His status a little uncertain right now, but he's a top cover corner against any opponent. So if he is, for whatever reason, unavailable, that could be significant as well. So take a peek at the injury report, mostly because of Mateer, but other guys that could be impactful in this game as well. Question number 1. Can Texas's O-line contain Oklahoma's defensive front? This is probably the biggest mismatch in the game as of this moment, because Oklahoma's defensive front is dynamic, they are deep, they are aggressive, and they can take over the game. You have an elite edge rusher on the end of the line of scrimmage in R. Mason Thomas. You have very disruptive interior players like David Stone and Jaden Jackson and a handful of others. They probably go 5 deep at defensive tackle. All those guys are really, really good. And this Texas offensive line got pushed around badly last week. The tackles struggled some, the internals struggled some, the guards struggled as well. The Sooners can generate pressure at a rate unlike most teams in the country. One of the highest pressure rates in all of college football. And this offensive line really did not look good last week. So far, Oklahoma is sacking the opposing quarterback 15% of the time. That is first in the FBS. They have 21 sacks. It's the second most in college football. So that is going to be very interesting. Does Brent Venables and their scheme, did they decide to blitz, which he loves to do, or do they just let their defensive line tee off? Because if they are just letting their defensive line tee off, then that could be a big problem, because you still have 7 in coverage against 4 pass rushers, 5 blockers. That's bad from a number standpoint if you are Texas and trying to create advantages. Question number 2, can Oklahoma's rushing attack find success against Texas's front 7? Now, the passing game with the backup quarterback, probably a little compromised, right? So that means Oklahoma has to find a way to run the football. This will be a very tough test, because you're running directly into one of the best linebackers in the country in Anthony Hill. He'll be off the ball. And if you look at Oklahoma's rushing attack so far this year, they're 97th in yards per game. They're 106th in yards per rush. Now, I like their 1-2 punch at running back with Torrey Blaylock, who's got some home run hitting potential. He's a freshman, but he's a really good back. And then transfer Jaden Knott, who has not gotten off to the start that we anticipated, but probably anticipating him having more of a role as the season goes along. You're going against a Texas run defense that's top 12 in the country. They allow just 80 yards a game. But if you look at the physicality, if Oklahoma can match the physicality, that'd be big. But if you look at Michael Hawkins Jr. in particular, he is a dynamic run threat as well, which means Anthony Hill, who we referenced a moment ago, he might be forced to spy an awful lot. So if they can get Michael Hawkins in obvious passing situations, that would be big, because if they get there, here comes the pass rush off the edge. With Ethan Burke, Colin Simmons, Trey Moore, these guys can flat out get after you. So it's very important for Texas to stop the run, and it's also very important for Oklahoma to establish the run to stay out of those 3rd and longs. Question number 3, can Oklahoma's passing attack manufacture something against Texas's secondary? This is a really good and talented group of wide receivers. Deion Burks, Isaiah Satania, Jaron Kanik, who I think is a matchup problem there at tight end. He's got great feel for zone, but he can also beat man. You also have Michael Hawkins, though, whose accuracy from time to time is a little bit off the mark. It's to be expected. He's a young player. So he's not going to be as accurate as a Mateer. He's not going to be as accurate as some of the veterans we see across the country. He's going to have some big moments, though, and he has at times in the past, best game last year probably against Auburn, he has at times in the past hit some big plays downfield. If he could do so in this game, that'd be huge for Oklahoma. Question number 4, who wins the turnover battle? This, to me, is the biggest factor in the game. And given Oklahoma's offensive limitations right now, the fact that Texas has struggled up front along the offensive line, I think the team that wins the turnover margin will almost certainly win the game. And Texas has been somewhat turnover prone. They have 5 interceptions from Arch. They have 6 turnovers overall. But Oklahoma, for as good as they've been defensively, they have not forced a lot of turnovers this year. They have just 2. They both came last week against Kent State. That's bottom 5 in the FBS. Texas, on the other side, has been really good at turning people over for the last 2 years. They've got 9 so far this season. That's 22nd. So if they can have that takeaway-minded defense capitalize on a backup quarterback with some erratic accuracy from time to time, Or if Oklahoma can stay true to a conservative game plan and play mistake-free football, that could be really big in this game. So turnovers, probably the biggest indicator of who's going to win this one because both offenses might have their hands full. I think this is a chance to be a very low-scoring game. I'm taking the Texas Longhorns. I think they bounce back. And while right now, I don't really trust Texas's offense. I don't. I do, however, think the arrow is pointing up for their quarterback. I trust Texas's offense still a little more than I trust Oklahoma's offense right now. And then on defense, I trust Oklahoma's defense more, but the gap between Oklahoma's defense and Texas defense is not quite as wide. The best play of the weekend might be the under in this game. I don't see either team really opening it up that much. They're both great defenses. They both have offenses that have been a bit shaky. So how risky does either coach want to be? I think this game will be played close to the vest. I think it'll be a lot of field position. I think it'll be capitalizing on mistakes. I'll take the Longhorns in what should be a low-scoring game.